It is time for a 5-minute major with Hockey Wanderlust, and I think we've got half the globe covered. I'm not sure. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia. Ken Yaffe, New York City. Say hello, Ken.
Hello, actually out on Long Island today.
Out on Long
Spent a
Island.
long weekend in the rain.
Very nice. And the prestigious guest today is in Riga, Latvia, covering, oh my God, his umpteenth world championship of some sort tournament. In this case, it is the World Championships from TSN television in Canada, none other than Gord Miller. Gordo?
Nice to see you guys. So it's early in the morning for you, Rob, and it's sort of afternoon. Here it's late in the evening. So we've just finished doing a couple of games here. So
Tell us a little bit. We were going to send the full crew to Riga. We were going to go Hockey Wanderlust crazy. But when we heard about the COVID situation, we kind of backed off a little bit. How has that been? That's the first question, is just how different is it? And can guys, Dave Fisher from USA Hockey says Riga's his favorite town / city in the world.
Beautiful.
Has Fish been able to go out with the rest of anyone and drink beers? What's the deal?
No. So basically the teams are bubbled fully. They are in their hotels and they are not permitted to go anywhere but the rink. I think what they've done is they've had a couple of outings where they go on the bus to go to a place sort of out of town, and they're on their own there and they can be together. But basically they're in a full bubble here as they were in the NHL playoffs last year, as we saw at the World Junior. And now we are not. We are on, I would describe them as the NHL restrictions, sort of the same thing. Like, we are staying to our own group. We're wearing masks at all times in the. I got to give a ton of credit, especially to the North American guys that came here. When you've played all this season in the NHL under pretty hard restrictions, it's basically on the road. It's the plane, the hotel, and the rink, and you come here to be fully bubbled. And the Canadian guys may have to quarantine when they go back. We don't know yet. I mean, I'm going to have to. We don't know if they're going to have to. So it's a pretty big commitment. It's really too bad. We're going to have fans here on Tuesday, but of all the countries to not have fans, Latvia's fans are so passionate and make such a difference. I mean, 200 Latvian fans can sound like 2,000. There'll be 2,000 in the rink on Tuesday in the rink we're in. So it'll be a lot better.
Gord, it's great to see you back at the World Championships. This hasn't been an easy one to get to. Coming into this one, we thought we were going to be in Minsk, complex geopolitical situation that led to the move to Riga. Obviously, COVID as an additional a roadblock and challenge. How does this one feel differently? And I don't think anybody's called more World Championships than you have at every level. How does this one feel different given the road to getting to this point?
Well, it's certainly different. It's not. I mean, the great thing about the World Championship, and you guys have been there before, it's the atmosphere around it. It's walking to the rink and seeing the fans from the different countries. This is an event when it's time normally and there's no restrictions, where people plan their vacations around it. So you'd have hundreds of German fans here and Swedish fans, and we're so centrally located here. We're close to Finland, close to Russia, close to Finland. And Germany. It's really too bad. I haven't called a game with fans in the arena in like 450 days.
Wow.
So, I did the whole NHL season in Canada with no fans. I did the World Junior with no fans, and now this. So I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. And look, it sounds trite to say it. It's just not the same without people in the building. It's just not the same. I mean, I give a ton of credit to the players. They've been intense. They've played hard. The game's been really good. It's just not the same without people in the building. It's like being in a movie theater by yourself. It's just not the same.
Your main focus is Canada, obviously. You're broadcasting back to TSN. Of course, you're off in the world feed over the years and all these different events. But Canada right now, the old cliche, backs against the wall. They have never not made the quarterfinals, as far as I understand it. So yeah. Holy moly, this is a huge next couple of big days coming up.
Yeah, it is. I think the guys that are here have done their best. I mean, I think the 11 of the guys who are here have played fewer than 100 games. 4 of their 7 defensemen have played fewer than 25 NHL games. Owen Power has been just a major story here for Canada, though. He played 26 minutes the other night for them, 4 more minutes than any other player. He's 18 years old, hasn't been drafted yet. And it's really an interesting dynamic here. My first World Championship was the 93 Worlds in Munich. And at that tournament, you had a couple of draft eligible players who really made a lot of waves. Paul Kariya for Canada and Saku Koivu for Finland. And I really feel the same thing is true here of Owen Power for Canada and Matty Beniers for Team USA. This is a hard look. It's hard for 18-year-olds to make an impact at the World Junior. It's mostly for a 19-year-old tournament. For 18-year-olds here against men, some of whom, in Brian Boyle's case, actually is twice his age. Matty Beniers was born in late 2002. Brian Boyle was drafted in the summer of 2003. So, for them to make an impact like this in this tournament is really something else. So from the Canadian perspective, look, they obviously didn't get a lot of the guys they wanted, but the guys who came made a real commitment. So I give them credit for that. This is certainly a different year than we've ever seen in this tournament. I think there's already been 5 instances where a team beat a team they've never defeated before at the World Championship. Latvia beat Canada for the first time, then went out and lost to Kazakhstan for the first time.
Olympic year, usually in an Olympic year at the World Championships, thoughts turn to the Olympics. Often rosters are a composition of prospective Olympic rosters. That probably looks a little different this year, and you don't have the roster progression in quite the same way. You don't have NHL teams being eliminated and then those players coming over. First, is this sort of a tune-up for the Olympics in any way, other than maybe the uniforms? And secondly, what are you hearing around the hotel lobby, around the hotel bars, if there is any activity at the hotel bars, about planning for the Olympics and NHL participation?
So, first of all, I think there are some countries that are auditioning players for the Olympics, to be sure. I think that's part of what's going on here. Jason Robertson had a tremendous year for Dallas, has been outstanding here. He's going to push for a spot on Team USA. And I think his performance here will certainly help him with that. As for the NHL, I keep hearing, as you guys do, that reports that, things are moving along. I don't know. I guess I'll believe it when I see it. But, the NHL needs some very specific things from the IOC and the IHF to make this happen. And I haven't heard that all those boxes have been checked yet. So there's a lot of concern here, certainly from the European broadcasters. Sweden hasn't seen their best players together since the 2016 World Cup. It's been very difficult for them. And they're very passionate about the national team. What we don't have in Canada and the United States is a national team, right? That plays together for most of the year. They do have those here. So to play for the national team is a big honor. And they would be really devastated if they couldn't have their best players play in the Olympics. So would the Finns, Germany, which is a rising program in the world. I'll believe it when I see it. I kept hearing in 2018 they were close, and it never happened. The NHL has made a commitment to the players to do their best to try to get them there, but I don't know. If I had to bet, I'm not sure which way I'd go.
There was a report last week, though, that they were making progress on the insurance issue. So
that's what. So there's insurance.
Yeah.
There's the travel costs.
Yeah.
There's families there.
Yeah.
There is the use. There's access. There is media access to the players from NHL teams, and there's use of footage.
Yeah.
And so those are all issues that have to be sorted out. I'll be honest with you guys, and if you polled NHL owners, I think the vote would be probably 24 not to go.
Wow.
And I think it's also the thing you left off that list is COVID, which is, there's a presumption that we're going to be through this, but Tokyo is still an open question mark. I think a lot of the IOC's attention is probably on the summer games as well. And so, the NHLPA demands are probably kicked down the list quite a ways, but here's hoping they get things sorted out this summer and we see the best players at the Olympics in China.
I think, Ken, you're right. Fans want to see it. I think, federations want to see it. I look at it from both sides. I can't say, Ken, if you own an NHL team, I can't say to you, here is the line in your financial statement where the Olympics come in. I can't say that to you because you don't get revenue from it. And yet the largest corporations in the world spend billions of dollars to be associated with the Olympics. There has to be benefit to it.
Yeah, I think for the NHL, listen, in my former life as an NHL executive, I was a constant advocate and at the negotiating table on a lot of these issues. And for me, it was a hard sell often, even in the best of times to NHL owners.
Right.
Where's the real value, the extrinsic value? The intrinsic value, I think, is arguably there. Certainly in the NBC relationship, the intrinsic value was there. But I think putting the NHL players on that stage is always special, and there are always breakout moments. And I don't think, and this has been debated for decades now, you can't pick and choose. You either are a participant on the global stage, and it's part of what you do as a hockey player in a league and a players association, or you move on. But I think the uncertainty hurts the league. Going into each Olympic Games, there's uncertainty, whether it's disruption on the labor front in the midst of negotiations, this gets left out. It's used as leverage often in the dialogue between the league and the union. And so it's hard to mark it on the calendar. And I think over time, it starts to wear the fans down. Like, what is happening? And here we are,
right?
9 months out, and we still don't.
So what they want, Ken, you know this, and Rob, you know this. What the NHL wants is for the World Cup to be the preeminent best on best competition in the world, and they get all the revenue from that.
Yeah,
the NHL and the players keep all the revenue from that. But as long as NHL players go to the Olympics, the World Cup will always be a secondary tournament. Yeah. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist said it at the press conference announcing the last World Cup. He was asked if this would be as good as the Olympics, and he said no. So, I mean, we know that, but as I said, I see both sides of it. I understand where fans come from. I understand where owners come from. If you own a team that's in an NFL market and a baseball market, January, February, March is your prime selling time. One owner said to me, it would be like a department store shutting down in December. So I get both sides of the argument. I hope they can sort it out. I'm just not optimistic they will. Like I say, show me and I'll believe it.
On a lighter note, Gord, as we wrap her up here, I noticed some social media with you and your TSN cohort, Craig Button, where you were talking about there is no such thing as jinxes. I assume this is in regards to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, because Craig said that Montreal wouldn't win a game. But so this whole, it's all about shutouts, right? Should a broadcaster say shutout? And I always do, because the goalie can't hear me. Believe me, guys, if my words could alter events,
right,
I wouldn't be doing it on hockey games. There'd be a whole lot of other things I'd be using my all-powerful words on. But Vin Scully is my go-to, right? Scully called 4 Sandy Koufax no-hitters and said no-hitter during the broadcast every time.
Right.
So if it's good enough for Vin, it's good enough for me. But you'd be amazed, guys, at the amount of feedback we get if I say shutout in the third period and the guy loses it and the guy gives up a goal. Like, it's just, people are wild about it.
Yeah. For 3 decades doing international hockey, I think a decade or two before that, a decade anyway, as behind the mic. Can you remember your first international hockey game that you called? Who was it?
I can. It was in Calgary. It was in December of 1991. It was before the Olympics in Albertville, and the then Soviet national team and the Soviet Union was in the process of disintegrating during that tour. Remember, because in 92 in Albertville, I think they played as the Commonwealth of Independent States, but those Soviet players were in Calgary as their country was coming unraveled around Christmas time. And so it was Canada's Olympic team against the Soviets, a 2-game exhibition series at the Saddledome in Calgary. I remember that. And you talk about geopolitics. It was astonishing. I mean, you were watching TV and seeing literally, Gorbachev handing off to Yeltsin and the Soviet Union disintegrating, and these guys are playing hockey against Canada. It was wild.
I remember in those years, they didn't even know what anthem to play if the Russian team won, because they didn't.
It wasn't decided until right before those Olympics what they would be called, what the anthem would be, what uniforms they would wear. Like it really was a crazy time. I remember one year at the World Junior when the Czechs and Slovaks split a couple of years later. Those players woke up the next morning being from different countries. They were Czechoslovaks on December 31st. On January 1st, they were Czechs and Slovaks. Yep. It was crazy time.
Well, that game that you referred to in Calgary, Gord, the start of a phenomenal career. We were chatting earlier off this interview about, I think, 26 years of World Juniors and then everything else, World Championships, women's, under 18s. You've done everything, seen it all, and always very, very enjoyable and entertaining to watch and listen to, Gord. It was cool an honor and a privilege a couple of times to get to work with you and your crew, and it's always a lot of fun to watch you perform. So, and thanks for very, very much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much, and keep up the great work.